Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem, Warka Kardash. Double honors to the elders, apostles, of Great Millstone, pushing this word truthfully and sincerely. And Shalom to the Akim, scattered through the four corners of the globe, pushing the word truthfully and sincerely. And Shalom to the Akim, scattered through the four corners of the globe, that be like unto the speckled bird, pushing the word truthfully and sincerely. And I say Shalom to you Akim out there. And this is a sit-down lesson, a quick one, through the spirit, power, grace, and mercy of Yahweh Yahushua on this July the 4th, 2022 at 2:57 p.m. afternoon, on this Monday afternoon. And the highlight of this news article, and it reads, in the news, this is from arabnews.com, and this was posted about July the 3rd, 2022 by Shahid Al-Bati, if I pronounce his name right. And the highlight of this news article, and it reads, it says Yemen troops launch a campaign against Al-Qaeda. It says, this is a photo showing right here, Yemen troops managed to push Al-Qaeda from key cities. You know, and this goes in the times where not too long ago, I said about a couple of months ago, back in April, you know, they were supposed to have a Yemen trust ceasefire between Yemen and the Houthi rebels. But I guess after a while, a couple of months later after that, I guess the ceasefire was broken. The ceasefire was broken as well too. So now you're still seeing operations and the missions continue on in that region in Yemen. So it says offense in Albania, government raid aimed at prevent resurgence by terrorist groups. It says the Al-Qaeda Yemen Special Forces has launched an offense against Al-Qaeda in the southern governorate of Albania. Reports that the terrorist groups is attempting a combat. Elite counter-terrorist troops have been deployed in the mountains and valleys in the Albania to prevent the Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula and branch in Yemen for turning those areas into safe havens or launching paths for strikes against government troops in the south. Abdul Rahman al-Sami, commander of counter-terrorist forces in Albania, said the campaign was launched after receiving information that the AQAP was gathering in remote valleys and mountains to launch attacks against the government troops in the south. He vows to throttle its attempts to resurge the Albania. His forces has not encountered any resistance to the AQAP. Terrorists has reportedly filled their hideouts in the mountains between Albania and Al-Baraba government. Last month, local media, the residents have masked the AQAP terrorists appeared in some valleys and areas in Albania, ambushing troops and kidnapping residents. So yeah, I'm gonna bring out another news article as well too, to show you the resurgence of the operations and different groups, the troops of Yemen, and then you got the Iranian-backed fighters as well too, you know. And this is another news article as well. It says Yemen Taiz brace for new Houthi attacks. And it says military military responsible for stoking humanitarian crisis in Yemen, despite thousands of recruitments indoctrinating juveniles, officials told the U.S. Embassy. And this was published on July the 4th, 2022. Military officials said the residents in the Yemen city of Taiz are bracing themselves for an intensified attacks by the Iranian-backed Houthis. Right, the Houthis back at it again. After that trust deal was broken, after that trust deal was broken in early May, I believe. Now it's back to the attacks again on the two sides, And it says attacks by the Iranian-backed Houthis after the military group mobilized new fighters and heavy artillery and military vehicles outside the city. Abdul Basir al-Bahar, a Yemen military officer in Taiz, told the Arab News on Monday that the Houthis have deployed extra forces and equipment on all fronts outside the strategic city. That intelligence reports suggested that they were preparing to launch more aggressive attacks and shellings on the city and military locations controlled by government troops. He said they had brought in the big military reinforcement to Taiz, including fighters, military vehicles, armored personnel carriers, heavy machine guns, and sniper rifles with night vision sights. Taiz, Yemen's third largest city, had been under a cooking siege since early 2015 after the Houthis blocked its main entrance, barring people from leaving or entering the city, from preventing vital humanitarian assistance from reaching thousands of needy inhabitations. Yep, this was I was just talking about this too, and here it goes. It says under a UN broke trust that came into effect on April the 2nd. The Houthis were supposed to particularly ease the siege by opening because I believe they broke many violations after that, so they kept on continuing the campaign, The Houthis were supposed to particularly ease the siege by opening a main road to several small secondary roads after the Yemen government facilitated the departure of commercial flights from Sani, and that goes into early this year. I believe it was in either February or March, I believe, because you had it where the attacks of the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels going against the Yemen troops, I believe, because Saudi Arabia got allies with the United States, because Saudi Arabia was launching strikes against the Houthi rebels, and then the tensions between the military attacks against one another, it had further increased over there. The United Emirates of the I believe, I remember that it was in either March or early April, I believe. They had launched airstrikes in I believe it was a airplane site over there in the United Arab Emirates. The tensions had increased from Yemen, the southern part of Yemen, and it had reached all the way into the United Emirates at the airport, So, tensions had calmed down with that after a while, since they made that trust deal. A UN resolution back was on April the 2nd. And after that, I believe the Houthi rebels, which is an Iran-backed allied military organization, they kind of broke the violations of the trust treaty, of the ceasefire, to ease the tensions down, But after a while, a few months later, I guess it started to increase even further, more and more. The attacks are starting to go back up once again, And I'm going to read it again for edification's sake. It says, under a U.S. broker trust that came into effect on April the 2nd, the Houthis were supposed to particularly ease the siege by opening the main roads to several small secondary roads of the Yemen government facilitated the Department of Commercial flights from San Airport, allowed fuel ships to enter the Houthi ports, if I pronounced that right. It says the new sponsor discussions of opening roads in Taiz reached a statement as the Houthis refused to cooperate and insist on opening only small and unpaved roads leading into Taiz. Al-Bahrahi noted that 7 civilians and 13 soldiers have been killed and at least 100 civilians wounded since the April 2nd as the Houthis broke the terms of the truce on 2,849 occasions through missiles and drone strikes, deployment of forces. Our information said that military is planning attacks during the Eid days next week, he added. Monday morning, explosions rocked the northern outskirts of Taiz. Yemen's government troops pushed back the Houthis' assaults and respond to shellings on their position, Amiri in the near air defense military base. It says during the early hours, the Houthi used tanks and artillery fire to bombard an air defense base in northwest Taiz before sending ground troops to seize control of the areas. The Al-Bar says that the government troops fired back at the Houthi positions and forced the ground troops to retreat. It says separate during a meeting on Sunday, Al-Majari, a member of the Presidential Leadership Council, told the U.S. envoy to Yemen, Stephen Fagan, that the Houthis have been responsible for stroking up the world's worst humanitarian crisis, displaying thousands of Yemenis and recruiting and indoctrinating the country's juveniles, as he signaled the use of military operations to defeat the Houthis if they do not cooperate with peace efforts to end the war. It says defeating the Houthis military is possible. Today's international community wants peace, and we want peace, but the military refused to open a road that in its 40 years of Taiz, Majali said, according to the official news agency of the SABA. So yeah, that goes into the wars and rumors of wars even more. And I'm gonna bring out that peace and safety since he mentioned that. And then he said they was gonna use more force to stop the Houthi rebels, because they want a dialogue and peace. But, they might, since the Houthi rebels keep on violating or not allowing open roads in that region over there in Yemen, they still want to have full control of that, which is the Iran-backed allied groups. And I'm bring when they shall say peace and safety. When they shall say peace and safety. This is the book of 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 3. For For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction come upon them as a woman with a travail, they shall not escape, right? Because you're going to have these tensions continue to escalate even more and more, as they try to seek solutions of peace. But that might not be the case, especially you seeing once again, the growing tensions of that in Yemen with the Iranian-backed group Houthi rebels and the Yemen forces, of Yemen, the Houthi rebels trying to, because I believe more troops being deployed, more military tanks and all that. So I believe that situation is going to continue to increase of heavy, intensive gunfire, military between the two groups, is going to furthermore increase, This is the book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 9. But when you shall hear of wars and commotions, which we're seeing right now, especially in the parts of the Middle East, and tensions in the Middle East is going to grow even more, even though we're so used to hearing what's going on in the Middle East, but it's going to further even increase. It's going to increase more now than ever, and what we're seeing, in the last days, Luke 21:9. But when you shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but the end is not in by. And I'm going to drop down to the precept. Oh, not Matthew 27, I'm tweaking. Salakia. Not Matthew's 27. Meant to say Matthew's 24:7. This is the book of Matthew's 24, verse 7. Which I just brought up those two news articles of what's going on down there in Yemen, because they had a little peace treaty. That's why I brought out 1 Thessalonians 5:3. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction come upon them. And then this is a scripture right here that I'm breaking out with the increase of, because you've been seeing it now more than ever in the last days that we are currently living in. You've been seeing the nations rise against nations, been increasingly more than ever, and it's going to escalate and increase more and more and more, in the last days, especially in that the Middle Eastern region, And this is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 7. For nation shall rise against nations, and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. Not trying to get off topic or nothing like that, but you've been seeing the increase of pestilence, hurricane, tornadoes, flooding, landslide, mudslides, the increase of pestilence, famine, diseases, earthquakes in diverse places around the world, because these are biblical prophecy times that we are currently living in, and it's going to increase even more now than ever in the last days, because definitely these are wars and rumors of wars, because you're going to hear in the times that we are currently living in, you're going to hear of wars and rumors of wars. That's just being a rumor, and these wars and rumors of wars is going to increase to being more of a modern day current reality of these wars increasing, that is going to be real, And so with that, I hope this was edifying through the spirit, power, grace, and mercy of Yahweh Yahushua. And first and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem, Wakar Kadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles, a great millstone, pushing this word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim scattered through the four corners of the globe, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, scattered through the four corners of the globe, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, that be like unto the speckled bird, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And until next time, I will say shalom and a ball.